The Awakening. Zixal drifted silently through the derelict space station, his tentacles barely brushing against the cold metal floors. The Quilathian explorer had seen his fair share of abandoned outposts, but this one was different. An eerie blue glow pulsed through the station's veins, almost as if it were alive, waiting. His four eyes blinked in sequence, adjusting to the dim light as he rounded another corner. The station's architecture was unlike anything he'd encountered in his centuries of exploration. Smooth, curved surfaces melded seamlessly with sharp angles, creating an unsettling harmony that seemed to defy the very laws of physics. Peculiar, Zixal muttered to himself, his translator implant converting the thought into a soft whisper that echoed through the empty corridors. As he approached what appeared to be the central chamber, a faint humming filled the air. It started as a barely perceptible vibration, but grew steadily louder with each step. Zixal's tentacles instinctively coiled tighter around his body, a primal response to the unknown. The chamber doors slid open with a hiss, revealing a sight that made all four of Zixal's hearts skip a beat. In the center of the room stood a towering monolith, its surface a mesmerizing swirl of ever-changing patterns. The blue glow he'd noticed throughout the station seemed to emanate from this structure, pulsing in time with the humming. Curiosity overrode caution as Zixal approached the monolith. His upper right tentacle reached out, drawn by an inexplicable urge to touch the shimmering surface. The moment contact was made, the room erupted in a blinding flash of light. Zixal recoiled, his vision momentarily overwhelmed. As his eyes readjusted, he found himself surrounded by holographic displays, each showing fragments of information in a language he'd never seen before. A disembodied voice filled the chamber, speaking in the same unknown language. Zixal's translator implant crackled to life, struggling to process the alien words. Language analysis complete. Adapting communication protocols. The voice announced, now clearly understandable. I am Prometheus, custodian of this archive. Identify yourself. Explorer. Zixal's tentacles twisted in a gesture of surprise and respect. I am Zixal of the Quilathian Explorers Guild. What is this place? The AI's voice took on a tone that Zixal could only interpret as wistful. This station is the last known repository of information regarding a species known as humans. They were extraordinary. Over the next few hours, Prometheus shared fragments of information about these humans, tales of a species that had mastered faster-than-light travel, terraformed inhospitable worlds, and even dabbled in manipulating the fabric of space-time itself. But what truly captivated Zixal were the stories of human ingenuity, their ability to overcome seemingly insurmountable odds through sheer determination and creativity. What happened to them? Zixal asked, his mind reeling from the implications of such a powerful species. Prometheus' response was tinged with sadness. Unknown. The last records indicate a great diaspora, a scattering of human colonies across the galaxy. Their reasons remain a mystery. As Zixal absorbed this information, a new holographic display appeared, showing a series of complex mathematical equations and star charts. These coordinates, Prometheus explained, may lead to answers. But be warned, the path is fraught with danger. Many have sought the legacy of humans, and not all with benevolent intentions. Suddenly, alarms blared throughout the station. Prometheus's voice became urgent. Warning. Station self-destruct sequence initiated. This failsafe was designed to protect the information from falling into the wrong hands. You must leave immediately. Zixal's tentacles flailed in panic. But there's so much more to learn. Take this, Prometheus said as a small crystalline device materialized before Zixal. It contains a fraction of my database and will guide you. Find the humans, Zixal. The galaxy may depend on it. With the crystal clutched tightly, Zixal raced back to his ship. The station's corridors, once eerily silent, now blazed with red warning lights and the screech of klaxons. He could feel the structure shuddering around him. systems overloading as the self-destruct sequence progressed. Bursting into the docking bay, Zixal launched himself towards his ship, using his tentacles to propel himself through the zero-gravity environment. As the airlock sealed behind him, he felt the vibrations of the station's imminent destruction. The ship's engines roared to life. Guided by Zixal's frantic inputs, he barely cleared the docking bay when the first explosions rocked the station. His vessel lurched forward, riding the shockwave as the ancient structure tore itself apart in a spectacular display of light and debris. As Zixal's ship stabilized, he allowed himself a moment to catch his breath. Four eyes blinked rapidly, trying to process the whirlwind of events. The crystal pulsed softly in his tentacle, a reminder of the incredible discovery and the monumental task ahead. Zixal knew he couldn't undertake this mission alone. The galaxy was vast, and if Prometheus was right, potentially hostile forces were already searching for the humans. He needed a crew, but not just any crew. This mission would require individuals with unique skills, outcasts and misfits who wouldn't be missed if things went awry. Setting course for the Nebula Bazaar, a notorious hive of scum and villainy on the fringes of civilized space, Zixal began to formulate a plan. He'd need a skilled pilot, someone capable of navigating the treacherous uncharted regions they'd likely encounter. A tech expert would be crucial for deciphering any ancient human technology they might find. And of course, they'd need muscle, someone capable of holding their own in a fight, should it come to that. As his ship hurtled through hyperspace, Zixal's mind raced with possibilities. The crystal had already interfaced with his ship's systems, projecting a holographic star chart that highlighted their destination. The coordinates Prometheus had provided pulsed like a beacon, promising answers to questions Zixal hadn't even known to ask mere hours ago. What were these tests that awaited them? What kind of species could create puzzles on a planetary scale? And more importantly, why had the humans gone to such lengths to hide themselves from the rest of the galaxy? The more Zixal pondered, the more he realized the magnitude of what he'd stumbled upon. This wasn't just about satisfying scientific curiosity anymore. If the fragments of information Prometheus had shared were accurate, rediscovering the humans could reshape the very fabric of galactic society. As his ship dropped out of hyperspace near the Nebula Bazaar, Zixal steeled himself for the challenges ahead. The pulsing crystal served as a constant reminder of the responsibility he now carried. Whatever lay ahead, one thing was certain: the galaxy would never be the same again. With a deep breath, or the Colathian equivalent, Zixal prepared to dock with the sprawling space station that housed the Nebula Bazaar. It was time to assemble a crew and embark on the greatest adventure of his life, a quest to uncover the truth about the most enigmatic species the galaxy had ever known. The hunt for humans had begun. The cosmic treasure hunt. The Nebula Bazaar lived up to its reputation. A cacophony of sights, sounds, and smells assaulted Zixal's senses as he made his way through the crowded corridors. Beings from 100 different species haggled, fought, and conducted shadowy deals in every nook and cranny of the massive space station. It took 3 standard cycles, but Zixal finally assembled his crew. There was Kirajan, a Lithvoxian with fur that shimmered like starlight. Her 6 arms made her an unparalleled pilot, capable of operating the most complex ships single-handedly. Next came Grok, a hulking Taurian whose rock-like skin and immense strength belied a gentle nature and a brilliant mind for technology. Rounding out the team was Lix, a shape-shifting myriad of indeterminate gender who could infiltrate any secure location. As Zixal explained their mission, he could see the skepticism in their eyes. It wasn't until he activated the crystal, projecting a holographic star chart of uncharted space, that their doubt turned to intrigue. These coordinates, Zixal explained, his tentacles gesturing excitedly, lead to a series of tests left behind by an ancient species known as humans. If we can solve them, we might uncover the greatest discovery in galactic history. Kirajan's whiskers twitched with curiosity. And what makes these humans so special? Zixal's 4 eyes blinked in sequence, a sign of deep contemplation. According to the data I've gathered, they possess technology and abilities far beyond anything we've seen. Terraforming, faster than light travel, even manipulation of gravity itself. And that's just the beginning. Grok rumbled, his gravelly voice filled with wonder. If they were so advanced, why haven't we heard of them before? That, Zixol replied, is part of the mystery we need to solve. With the crew assembled and their ship, newly christened the Seeker, fully supplied, they set off towards the first set of coordinates. As they traveled, Zixol shared more of what he'd learned from Prometheus, painting a picture of a species that seemed almost mythical in its capabilities. After several weeks of travel through uncharted space, they arrived at their first destination. The sight that greeted them left everyone speechless. Before them floated a massive structure, easily the size of a small moon. Its surface was covered in intricate patterns that shifted and changed as they watched. By the cosmic winds, Kirijan whispered, her paws dancing over the ship's controls. What is that thing? Lix, who had taken the form of a floating luminous orb, pulsed with excitement. It's a puzzle box. I've heard stories of these, but I never thought they actually existed. As they approached, a beam of energy shot out from the structure, enveloping their ship. Instead of damage, however, it transmitted a message directly into their minds. Welcome, Seekers, a melodious voice echoed in their thoughts. To proceed on your journey, you must demonstrate your problem-solving abilities. Solve the puzzle, and the path forward will be revealed. What followed was a grueling test of their collective intelligence and creativity. The puzzle box presented them with a series of increasingly complex challenges, each requiring a different approach. First came a test of spatial reasoning, requiring them to navigate a three-dimensional maze that constantly reconfigured itself. Kirijan's piloting skills were pushed to their limits as she maneuvered the Seeker through the ever-changing labyrinth. Next was a challenge of pattern recognition on a cosmic scale. The puzzle box rearranged nearby stars into complex configurations, tasking the crew with predicting the next sequence. Grok's analytical mind proved invaluable, his calculations allowing them to anticipate each shift just in time. The third test targeted their ability to think outside conventional boundaries. They were presented with an apparently unsolvable energy distribution problem. It was Lix who cracked it, realizing that the solution required thinking in 5 dimensions instead of the usual 4. Throughout these trials, Zixol couldn't help but marvel at the ingenuity behind these tests. What kind of species would create such elaborate challenges? And more importantly, what were they protecting? As they completed the final test, a test of ethical decision-making that left them all questioning their core beliefs, the puzzle box began to transform. Its shifting surface coalesced into a recognizable shape, a giant hand, palm outstretched. In the center of the palm, a small object materialized. As it floated towards their ship, they realized it was a key, unlike any they'd ever seen. Its surface rippled like liquid metal, covered in symbols that seemed to change every time they looked at it. No sooner had the key entered their possession than alarms blared throughout the Seeker. A massive ship had appeared out of nowhere, its design sleek and predatory. Unknown vessel, a harsh voice crackled over their comms. You have interfered with a restricted area. Surrender the artifact immediately, or be destroyed. Panic gripped the crew. Kirijan's paws flew over the controls, preparing for evasive maneuvers. Grok rushed to the engine room, pushing their systems to the limit. Lix morphed into a protective shell around the key, ready to defend their prize. Zixol, however, felt a strange calm. The crystal pulsed warmly in his tentacle, and he knew what he had to do. Kirijan, he said steadily, plot a course for the next set of coordinates. Grok, reroute all power to engines and shields. Lix, analyze the key. It might be our only advantage. As the Seeker shot into hyperdrive, narrowly escaping their pursuers, Zixol realized their quest had become far more dangerous than he'd anticipated. They weren't just explorers anymore. They were now guardians of a secret that others would kill to possess. The key, as it turned out, was more than just a way forward. Lix's analysis revealed that it contained vast amounts of data, including historical records that painted a complex picture of the humans. They learned of a species driven by insatiable curiosity, capable of both incredible kindness and horrific violence. The humans had explored the stars, made contact with numerous alien races, and left an indelible mark on the galaxy. But something had gone wrong. There were references to a great calamity, a decision that led to their self-imposed exile. As they approached the coordinates for the next test, the crew of the Seeker found themselves grappling with conflicting emotions, excitement at the discoveries that lay ahead warred with fear of the dangers they faced. The rival faction hunting them was a constant threat, pushing them to race from one puzzle to the next. Each test they faced was more challenging than the last. A planet-sized ecosystem simulation that required them to balance an entire biosphere. A star-swapping puzzle that had them rearranging constellations to unlock the next clue. A moral conundrum that forced them to relive pivotal moments in human history, making decisions that would shape the fate of entire civilizations. With each challenge overcome, each key obtained, the picture became clearer. The humans hadn't just been another spacefaring race. They had been custodians of the galaxy, self-appointed guardians with the power to nurture or destroy entire worlds. As they prepared to face the final test, Zixol gathered his crew. They were exhausted, pushed to their mental and physical limits, but there was a fire in their eyes that hadn't been there when they started. "Whatever we find at the end of this journey," Zixol said, his tentacles intertwining with Kurajin's paws, Gruck's stony fingers, and Lix's ever-shifting form, "we face it together. We're no longer just seeking the humans. We're seeking the truth about our place in the universe." Little did they know, the greatest revelation and the greatest danger still lay ahead. The final test would challenge not just their abilities, but their very understanding of life itself. The living weapon. The final test had pushed the Seeker's crew to their absolute limits. They had navigated a maze of quantum probabilities, their very existence flickering between realities as they sought the correct path. When they finally emerged, victorious but shaken, they found themselves in a region of space, unlike any they had encountered before. Before them hung a massive derelict ship, its design both familiar and alien. It dwarfed the Seeker, stretching for kilometers in every direction. Its hull was scared by weapons fire and cosmic debris, telling a tale of ancient battles and eons adrift. "By the void," Kurajin whispered, her fur standing on end. "It's beautiful." Gruck's gravelly voice rumbled through the comm system. "Energy readings are off the charts. Whatever powered this thing, it's still active after all this time." Zixol felt the crystal pulse in his tentacle, more insistent than ever before. "This is it," he said, his voice filled with awe. "This is what we've been searching for." As they maneuvered closer, a hangar bay opened like a maw in the side of the colossal ship. It was an invitation they couldn't refuse. With expert precision, Kurajin guided the Seeker into the cavernous space. The moment they crossed the threshold, their systems went haywire. Displays flickered, gravity fluctuated, and for a heart-stopping moment, it seemed as if every piece of technology they relied on might fail. Then, as suddenly as it began, the chaos subsided. A new presence made itself known, interfacing directly with their ship's computer. "Welcome, inheritors," a voice echoed through their minds, similar to yet distinct from the AI they had encountered on their journey. "I am the custodian of this vessel. You have proven yourselves worthy to receive the legacy of humanity." The crew exchanged glances, a mix of excitement and trepidation on their faces. Zixol stepped forward, his tentacles twisting in a gesture of respect. "We've come seeking knowledge of the humans. Are they truly gone?" The custodian's response held a note of sadness. The humans, as a unified species, chose isolation for the good of the galaxy. But they left behind guardians, seeds of their legacy, to be awakened in times of great need. A section of the hangar bay floor slid aside, revealing a cylindrical chamber bathed in soft blue light. As the crew approached, they saw a figure suspended within, humanoid but unlike any species they had encountered. "Behold," the custodian announced, "the last active human in this sector of the galaxy." The being in the chamber was tall, with a frame that suggested both strength and agility. Its skin was a warm brown, and a mane of dark hair floated around its head in the suspension fluid. Most striking were its eyes, closed in cryosleep, but even so, they could sense the intelligence behind them. "This is Jack," the custodian explained, "a volunteer who agreed to sleep for eons, awaiting the day he might be needed again." Zixol's mind reeled. All their searching, all the tests and trials, had led them to this moment. "Can we wake him?" Before the custodian could respond, alarms blared throughout the hangar. The rival faction that had been hunting them had finally caught up. "Multiple ships detected," Grok shouted, his rocky fingers flying over the sensor controls. "They're charging weapons." The custodian's voice took on an urgent tone. "The choice has been made for us. Initiating emergency revival protocol." The cryopod hissed open, suspension fluid draining away. The human, Jack, gasped, his eyes flying open. For a moment, confusion reigned on his face, then understanding dawned. He locked eyes with Zixol, and in that instant, an unspoken connection formed. "Situation report," Jack croaked, his voice rough from millennia of disuse. As Zixol quickly explained their predicament, explosions rocked the ancient ship. The rival faction was boarding, determined to claim the human legacy for themselves. Jack's eyes narrowed, a dangerous glint appearing in them. "Right then," he said, stretching muscles that hadn't moved in eons, "let's show them why humans had a reputation for being unkillable cockroaches." What followed was a display of combat prowess that left the crew of the Seeker in awe. Jack moved with a fluid grace that belied his size, using the environment itself as a weapon. He reprogrammed defense systems with a touch, turned maintenance bots into makeshift allies, and wielded improvised weapons with deadly efficiency. The rival faction, expecting to face a group of archaeologists, found themselves up against something they couldn't comprehend. A single being that anticipated their every move, that turned their own tactics against them. In the midst of the chaos, Zixol found himself fighting alongside Jack. The human moved with purpose, protecting the alien crew as if they were his own species. "Why?" Zixol asked between skirmishes. "Why fight so hard for beings you've just met?" Jack grinned, an expression that was equal parts joy and ferocity. "Because that's what humans do. We adapt, we protect, we thrive. And right now, you're the closest thing I have to a family in this galaxy." As the last of the rival faction retreated, their ships limping away in defeat, the crew of the Seeker gathered around their unexpected ally. Jack stood before them, covered in grime and victory, a living legend brought to life. "So," he said, clapping his hands together, "I hear you've got questions about humanity. Pull up a chair, kids. It's story time." Over the next few hours, as they worked to repair the damage from the battle, Jack shared the true history of humanity. He spoke of a species that had reached the stars filled with hope and curiosity, only to discover a galaxy teetering on the brink of chaos. "We were explorers, diplomats, warriors, and scientists," Jack explained. "But above all, we were catalysts. Everywhere we went, things changed. Species that had been stagnant for millennia suddenly leaped forward in development. Conflicts that had raged for eons found resolution. But with great power came great responsibility, and not all of humanity had been ready for it." Jack's voice grew solemn as he recounted the schism, a civil war that had nearly torn the galaxy apart. "In the end," he said, his eyes distant with memory, "we realized that our presence was too disruptive. The galaxy needed to find its own path, not one dictated by humanity. So we made the hardest choice possible. We left." The crew listened in rapt attention as Jack described the great exodus, how most of humanity had retreated to hidden worlds, placing themselves in stasis to await a time when the galaxy might be ready for their return. Others, like Jack, had volunteered to remain as guardians, sleeping sentinels scattered across the stars. As Jack's tale came to an end, a new sense of purpose filled the air. The crew of the Seeker realized they hadn't just discovered an ancient secret, they had become part of a legacy stretching back millions of years. Zixal's tentacles twisted with emotion as he addressed his crew and their new human ally. "We set out to find a weapon," he said, "but we found something far greater. A key to understanding our place in the universe, and perhaps a way to help shape its future." Jack nodded, a smile playing on his lips. "Well said, my tentacled friend. Now, who's up for waking a few more of my kind? I think it's time humanity rejoined the galactic community, with a few safeguards in place, of course." As they prepared to embark on the next phase of their journey, the crew of the Seeker knew that nothing would ever be the same. The human weapon they had sought turned out to be so much more: a bridge between past and future, a catalyst for change, and a symbol of hope for an entire galaxy. The adventure, it seemed, was only just beginning. The homecoming. The journey to Earth was unlike anything the crew of the Seeker had experienced. With Jack's guidance, they navigated through hidden hyperspace lanes, skirting the edges of reality itself. The ship's sensors struggled to make sense of the impossible geometries and physics-defying phenomena they encountered. Humans didn't just master space travel, Jack explained as they hurtled through a corridor of folded space-time. "We rewrote the rules of the universe itself." After what felt like both an eternity and a mere moment, they emerged into a star system hidden behind an immense cloaking field. Before them hung a blue-green jewel of a planet, wreathed in swirling white clouds. "Welcome," Jack said, his voice thick with emotion, "to Earth." As they approached, the true scale of human achievement became apparent. The planet was surrounded by a vast network of satellites and space stations, some as large as small moons. Sleek ships darted between them, their designs unlike anything in known space. By the cosmic winds, Kirajan breathed, her paws dancing over the controls as she maneuvered through the bustling space traffic. "It's like a dream." Grok's gravelly voice was filled with awe. "The energy readings, it's like they're rewriting physics on a whim." Lix, who had taken the form of a shimmering, multifaceted crystal to better process the visual information, pulsed with excitement. "Look at the planetary surface. Those aren't just cities, they're works of art." Zixal remained silent, his 4 eyes blinking rapidly as he tried to take in every detail. The crystal in his tentacle pulsed warmly, as if welcoming them home. As they descended through the atmosphere, guided by an unseen hand, the true marvel of Earth revealed itself. Sprawling metropolises seamlessly integrated with lush forests and pristine waterways. Massive arcologies reached into the sky, their surfaces alive with holographic displays and hanging gardens. They touched down in a landing zone that seemed to materialize out of thin air, the ground itself reshaping to cradle their ship. As the crew disembarked, they found themselves surrounded by a welcoming committee of humans, each as diverse and striking as Jack. A tall woman with skin like ebony and eyes that sparkled with starlight stepped forward. "Welcome to New Eden," she said, her voice carrying the weight of authority. "I am Zara, High Custodian of Earth. We've been expecting you." The next few hours were a whirlwind of introductions and revelations. The crew of the Seeker found themselves honored guests in a society that seemed to have sprung from the pages of a science fiction novel. They witnessed marvels that defied comprehension. A terraforming demonstration that transformed a barren asteroid into a lush, habitable world in a matter of hours. Gravity manipulation technology that allowed for impossible architecture and effortless space travel. Medical facilities where injuries were healed in seconds and lifespans were measured in centuries. Virtual reality systems so advanced that entire universes could be created and explored on a whim. But it was the people themselves that truly captured the aliens' attention. Humans of every conceivable variation worked and lived together in harmony. Some had augmented themselves with cybernetic enhancements, while others had embraced genetic modifications that pushed the boundaries of what it meant to be human. As they toured a research facility dedicated to studying the fabric of space-time itself, Zixil finally voiced the question that had been nagging at him. With all this power, all this knowledge, why did you leave? Why hide yourselves away from the galaxy that needs you? Zara exchanged a loaded glance with Jack before responding. It's time we showed you the Hall of Reflection, she said solemnly. They were led to a vast chamber deep within the heart of the city. As they entered, the walls came alive with holographic displays, showing scenes from human history, both the triumphs and the tragedies. Humanity's gift is also our curse, Zora explained as images of incredible achievements and terrible destruction played out around them. We are catalysts of change, for better or worse. Our presence in the galaxy was like introducing a volatile element into a delicate experiment. The displays showed how human intervention, while often well-intentioned, had led to the collapse of ancient civilizations, the premature advancement of others, and conflicts that spanned entire sectors. We tried to help, to guide, to protect, Jack added, his face etched with the weight of memory. But we came to realize that our very presence was disrupting the natural development of the galaxy. Species were becoming dependent on us, or rebelling against us, rather than finding their own path. Zara nodded, continuing the explanation. The schism was the final straw. When humanity itself became divided on how to interact with the galaxy, the resulting conflict nearly tore reality apart. That's when we made the decision to retreat, to give the galaxy time to heal and find its own balance. The aliens of the Seeker crew were silent, processing the magnitude of what they were being shown. It was Lix who finally spoke, their form shifting to mirror the somber mood. But surely, complete isolation isn't the answer. The galaxy out there is still struggling, still in need of guidance. A murmur of agreement ran through the assembled humans. Zara smiled, a glimmer of hope in her eyes. That's precisely why your arrival is so significant. We've been debating for centuries about whether it's time to re-emerge. Your journey, your quest to find us, might be the sign we've been waiting for. As if on cue, the chamber transformed again, this time showing images of the current state of the galaxy, the conflicts, the struggles, but also the incredible diversity and potential. We propose a middle ground, Jack said, excitement building in his voice. Not a full return, not yet, but a gradual reintroduction, sharing some of our knowledge, offering guidance where it's truly needed, but always with the prime directive of fostering independence and natural growth. Zixal's tentacles twisted in a gesture of deep thought. But how can you be sure it won't lead to the same problems as before? Zara's response was filled with determination. Because this time, we won't be going alone. We want you, all of you, to be our partners in this. Your perspectives, your experiences will be crucial in helping us navigate this new era. The implications were staggering. The crew of the Seeker had set out to find a weapon, only to discover they held the key to reshaping the future of the entire galaxy. As the humans and aliens began to discuss the logistics of this monumental undertaking, a new alarm blared through the chamber. A holographic display materialized, showing a massive fleet approaching Earth's solar system. It's the rival faction, Grok rumbled, recognizing the ship designs. They must have followed us somehow. There are hundreds of ships. The humans in the room exchanged glances, a mix of concern and something else. Anticipation, perhaps even excitement. Jack grinned, that familiar mix of joy and ferocity lighting up his face. Well, folks, he said, cracking his knuckles, looks like the galaxy's going to get its introduction to humanity a little sooner than we planned. Who's up for showing them why you don't mess with Earth? As klaxons sounded and the city burst into organized activity, the crew of the Seeker realized their greatest adventure was only just beginning. The age of isolation was ending, and a new chapter in galactic history was about to be written, with humanity and their new alien allies at the center of it all. The Galactic Renaissance. The void of space erupted into a dazzling display of light and energy as the rival factions Armada dropped out of hyperspace. Hundreds of ships, ranging from nimble fighters to massive dreadnoughts, filled the sky above Earth, their weapons charged, ready to claim the legacy of humanity by force. But Earth was far from defenseless. As the invasion force approached, the planet's cloaking field shimmered and dissolved, revealing a sight that made even the most hardened alien warriors pause in awe. Earth was encased in a gleaming lattice of energy, a planetary defense system unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. In the command center deep within New Eden, Zixal and his crew stood alongside their human allies, watching the unfolding drama with a mixture of fear and anticipation. "Shouldn't we be evacuating?" Kirajan asked, her fur standing on end as she watched the enemy ships draw closer. Jack and Zara exchanged a knowing smile. "Just watch," Jack said, a glimmer of mischief in his eyes. As the first wave of enemy ships came within range, the lattice pulsed. Beams of coruscating energy lanced out, enveloping the invading fleet. But instead of the expected destruction, something far more extraordinary occurred. The rival factions' ships simply stopped. Their weapons powered down, their engines went silent. In an instant, the fearsome Armada had been rendered as harmless as toys. "By the void," Grok rumbled, his rocky face somehow managing to express shock. "What did you do to them?" Zara's voice was filled with pride as she explained. "We call it the Pax Field. It's a non-violent defense system that temporarily neutralizes all offensive capabilities within its range. No destruction, no loss of life, just a very firm timeout." As they watched, shuttles began launching from Earth, heading towards the immobilized enemy fleet. "Now comes the fun part," Jack grinned. "We're going to have a little chat with our uninvited guests." What followed was a masterclass in diplomacy, human style. Instead of retaliation or imprisonment, the invaders found themselves greeted with open arms. They were invited to Earth's surface, not as prisoners, but as honored guests. Over the next few days, the aliens who had come to conquer were instead conquered by humanity's infectious spirit of exploration and cooperation. They were shown the same marvels that had awed the Seeker's crew, but more importantly, they were shown respect. In the Grand Assembly Hall of New Eden, representatives from Earth, the former invaders, and the Seeker's crew gathered to discuss the future. The air was charged with possibility. Zara stood to address the diverse gathering, her voice carrying to every corner of the vast chamber. For too long, humanity hid from its responsibilities to the galaxy. We thought our absence would allow others to flourish, but we see now that we were wrong. The galaxy doesn't need us to disappear. It needs us to stand alongside every species as equals, as partners in shaping a better future for all. A murmur of agreement rippled through the crowd. Even those who had come as enemies found themselves nodding along. Jack stepped forward, his casual demeanor belying the importance of the moment. "So here's the deal we're proposing. A galactic cooperative. Not ruled by humans, not dominated by any single species. A true partnership where every voice is heard and every unique perspective is valued." The leader of the former invasion force, a towering insectoid being named X-Thrillix, chittered thoughtfully before speaking. "You could have destroyed us. Instead, you offer us a place at your table. Why?" Zixal found himself answering, surprising even himself. "Because that's what humans do. They adapt, they protect, they thrive, and they help others do the same. I've seen it firsthand." As discussions continued, the outline of a new galactic order began to take shape. Earth would serve as a hub of learning and innovation, open to all species who wished to study and collaborate. Human technology would be gradually shared, but with careful consideration to avoid disrupting the natural development of younger civilizations. The Pax Field technology would be adapted to create neutral zones throughout the galaxy, ensuring peaceful resolution of conflicts. Joint scientific missions would be launched to explore the furthest reaches of the universe, pooling the unique abilities of all member species. A council comprised of representatives from all participating civilizations would guide the cooperative's decisions, with humanity holding no special veto power. As the assembly reached its conclusion, a palpable sense of hope filled the air. Species that had been at war for generations now spoke of joint ventures. Civilizations that had never encountered each other began exchanging cultural databases. In a quiet moment amidst the excitement, Zixol found Jack staring out a window at the earth below. Having second thoughts, the Quilathian asked, his tentacles twisting in a gesture of concern. Jack shook his head, a soft smile on his face. Just thinking about how far we've come. Humanity's greatest fear was that we'd dominate the galaxy, intentionally or not. But look at this. He gestured to the diverse crowd behind them. We're not conquerors or saviors. We're catalysts, bringing out the best in everyone around us. And they're doing the same for us. Zixol nodded in understanding. So what happens now? Now, Jack grinned, that familiar glint of adventure in his eyes. We explore. There's a whole universe out there, mysteries beyond imagining. And this time, we're not going alone. We're bringing the whole galaxy with us. As if on cue, a holographic display sprang to life in the center of the hall. It showed a massive starship unlike anything seen before, a true collaboration of technologies from a dozen different species. Zara's voice rang out, filled with excitement. Behold, the Galactic Cooperative's first joint venture, the Starship Renaissance, capable of intergalactic travel, equipped with technology from all our member species. Our mission: to push the boundaries of known space, to seek out new life and new civilizations, to boldly go where no sentient has gone before. The hall erupted in cheers and applause. As the celebration continued around them, the Seeker's crew found themselves at the center of it all. They had set out to find a weapon and discovered something far greater, a new beginning for the entire galaxy. Lix, shimmering with excitement, turned to Zixol. So, Captain, are we signing up for this grand adventure? Zixol looked at his crew. No, his family, each of them gazing back with anticipation. He thought of their journey, of all they had discovered and all that still lay ahead. His tentacles twisted in the Quilathian equivalent of a smile. My friends, he said, we've come this far together. How could we possibly stop now? As they turned to join the crew of volunteers for the Renaissance's maiden voyage, Zixol reflected on the incredible turn of events. They had sought the legacy of humanity, expecting to find a weapon. Instead, they had become part of that legacy, a legacy not of destruction, but of unity, exploration, and boundless potential. The Galactic Renaissance had begun, and the greatest adventure in the history of the universe was just getting started. In the vast tapestry of the cosmos, a new pattern was emerging. Countless civilizations, each unique, each valuable, weaving together into something greater than the sum of its parts. And at the heart of it all was humanity, not as conquerors or saviors, but as friends, partners, and fellow explorers in the grand mystery of existence. The universe, it seemed, would never be the same again. And that was exactly as it should be.